Stories and Documentary Network.
In the heart of Southeast Asia, nestled along the emerald coastline and winding rivers, there once thrived a civilization whose name has been almost swallowed by the tides of history. Champa. A kingdom of seafarers, warriors, and scholars, Champa flourished for centuries, leaving traces of grandeur hidden within ancient ruins, forgotten temples, and whispers carried by the wind. Its people, the Cham, built cities that glimmered like jewels along the coastline, their culture a dazzling mosaic of Indian, indigenous, and later Islamic influences. Yet, like mist at dawn, Champa seemed to vanish almost overnight. Invaded by neighboring powers, fractured by internal strife, and eroded by the relentless march of time, the kingdom that once commanded the seas of Southeast Asia faded from memory. But Champa's disappearance was not absolute. Embedded within its ruins and among its people lies a living testimony, a hidden legacy that survived centuries of upheaval. In this journey, we will uncover how Champa, a kingdom lost to time, not only embraced the waves of cultural and religious change, but also became a cradle of Islamic heritage that still breathes life in modern Cambodia. Prepare to step into a world where history hides in shadows, and where the echoes of a vanished kingdom still whisper secrets to those who listen closely. The story of Champa begins in the 2nd century CE, along the sun-scorched coasts of what is now central and southern Vietnam. The Cham people, a maritime civilization of Austronesian roots, established small polities that gradually coalesced into a powerful kingdom. Drawing inspiration from India, the early Cham adopted Sanskrit as the language of the elite, inscribed on stone tablets and temple walls, and embraced Hinduism, particularly the worship of Shiva, as a spiritual foundation. Champa was no isolated outpost. Its ports thrummed with life, a crossroads of cultures and ideas where traders from India, China, and the Malay archipelago exchanged silks, spices, and sacred texts. These trade networks did more than bring wealth. They became conduits for cultural transformation, allowing Champa to absorb, reinterpret, and synthesize ideas from across the known world. Its rulers, keenly aware of the power of prestige and piety, commissioned grand temples and monuments that echoed the architecture of distant lands while maintaining a distinct Cham identity. At the heart of Champa lay a complex and vibrant society, deeply spiritual yet pragmatically organized. Temples such as the iconic Mi Sun Sanctuary, with its towered red brick architecture, stood as both centers of worship and symbols of state power. These sacred spaces were adorned with intricate bas-reliefs depicting Hindu epics, blending mythology with historical narratives that celebrated the kingdom's founders and heroes. Yet Champa's religious life was not static. Buddhism, arriving from India and China, left subtle imprints alongside Hindu practices, shaping the kingdom into a dynamic religious mosaic. By the 9th century, Champa's elite navigated a spiritual landscape that balanced devotion to Shiva, reverence for Buddhist teachings, and eventually, the early inklings of Islam. This cultural fluidity was both a strength and a vulnerability, allowing Champa to integrate diverse influences but also creating tensions that would later challenge the kingdom's unity. Champa's lifeblood was the sea. Its coastal cities, fortified yet open to foreign ships, commanded the waters of the South China Sea and the Gulf of Thailand. The kingdom's economy thrived on maritime trade, exporting precious hardwoods, ivory, and exotic spices while importing textiles, ceramics, and religious texts. These interactions with merchants from Arabia, India, and the wider Malay world not only enriched Champa materially, but also introduced new ideas and technologies. The Cham Navy, renowned for its agility and tactical innovation, safeguarded these trade routes, projecting Champa's influence across the seas. Control over maritime corridors allowed the kingdom to mediate between powerful neighbors, including the Khmer Empire to the west and the Dai Viet to the north. Champa became a hub of cultural exchange, where ideas, faiths, and art converged, setting the stage for the kingdom's eventual encounter with Islam. But the kingdom's maritime prowess could not shield it forever. Repeated invasions, internal power struggles, and shifting regional alliances slowly eroded Champa's stability. Coastal cities that once bustled with traders and scholars fell into ruin, and the vibrant tapestry of Cham society began to fray. Yet even as Champa's political power waned, Its culture, maritime knowledge, and openness to new ideas ensured that its influence would endure, whispering hints of its legacy in the centuries to come. As we delve deeper, the next chapter will uncover how the waves of the Indian Ocean carried not only merchants, but also the teachings of Islam, forever intertwining the destiny of Champa with a faith that would survive long after the kingdom itself had faded from the map. The story of Islam in Champa begins not in grand palaces, but on the restless waves of the South China Sea. Merchant ships from Arabia and Persia, laden with spices, silks, and stories of distant lands, docked at Cham ports, bringing with them the whispers of a new faith. These traders were more than merchants. They were conduits of knowledge, philosophy, and belief, introducing the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad to communities already familiar with Hindu and Buddhist practices. The spread of Islam was subtle at first. Coastal towns like Phan Rang and Phan Thiet became the initial contact points, where Cham sailors and merchants encountered the Arabic script, learned new prayers, and witnessed rituals unlike any in their homeland. Here, in these bustling trade hubs, seeds were sown that would eventually grow into a profound spiritual transformation. By the 17th century, the faith had reached the corridors of power. Some Cham kings and nobles, recognizing both the spiritual depth and the political advantages of Islam, embraced the religion. Their conversion was not merely a private matter of faith. It was a declaration that shaped the course of Cham society. Royal patronage ensured the construction of mosques, the translation of Islamic texts, and the formal teaching of the faith to the population. These rulers became both spiritual and cultural bridges, blending Islamic principles with Cham traditions. Royal decrees encouraged religious education, facilitated pilgrimage to Mecca for those who could afford it, and established legal frameworks inspired by Islamic jurisprudence. Under their guidance, Islam transitioned from a foreign influence to an integral part of Champa's identity. The nobility's embrace of Islam catalyzed its spread among the common people. Traders, craftsmen, and farmers gradually adopted Islamic practices, integrating them into daily life. Rituals such as daily prayers, fasting during Ramadan, and the observance of Islamic festivals became intertwined with Cham customs. Religious schools, madrasas, emerged, teaching children not only the Quran, but also Arabic literacy, mathematics, and astronomy, highlighting Islam's profound influence on Cham education. However, this was not a story of abrupt change. Cham Islam was syncretic, blending indigenous beliefs with Islamic teachings, resulting in a uniquely Cham expression of the faith. Folk rituals persisted alongside prayers, and local architectural motifs were incorporated into mosque design. This fusion ensured that Islam was not seen as an alien imposition, but as a natural extension of Cham cultural life, quietly but profoundly transforming the kingdom's spiritual landscape. Yet while the faith spread and flourished, a shadow loomed over Champa's future. External invasions and internal turmoil threatened to scatter the Cham people, raising the question, could this delicate cultural and religious tapestry survive the coming storm of history? At the heart of Champa's political and cultural life lay the city of Vijaya. Once a bustling metropolis, Vijaya's streets teemed with merchants, scholars, and artisans. The city's skyline was punctuated not only by Hindu towers, but also by the slender minarets and domes of early mosques, signaling the arrival and establishment of Islamic influence. Vijaya was a crucible of spiritual synthesis, where the faiths of the world intersected and coexisted. Cham Islamic architecture reflected both practicality and devotion, blending local building techniques with stylistic elements from the wider Islamic world. Mosques were often constructed from red brick and sandstone, echoing the materials used in Cham Hindu temples, yet they incorporated Arabic calligraphy, geometric motifs, and arches inspired by Persian and Malay design. Tombs of Cham rulers and scholars, often adorned with inscriptions in Arabic, served as enduring testaments to the kingdom's fusion of heritage and faith. The Po Klang Garai complex in Vietnam, while primarily Hindu, demonstrates the subtle integration of Islamic features in Cham architecture. Curved arches, decorative motifs, and inscriptions hint at the cultural dialogue between faiths. In Cambodia, Cham settlements preserved these architectural styles, adapting them to local conditions while maintaining symbolic elements of Islamic artistry. Each mosque and tomb tells a story. a silent narrative of devotion, resilience, and cultural adaptation. The survival of Cham Islamic architecture is itself a story of endurance. Centuries of conflict, from Dai Viet invasions to colonial occupations, threatened these structures with destruction. Yet in both Vietnam and Cambodia, communities safeguarded their sacred spaces, repairing and restoring them, ensuring continuity across generations. Even in the face of modern development, these mosques and tombs stand as enduring markers of a civilization that refused to vanish entirely. These structures are more than stone and mortar. They are living repositories of memory and identity. As the sun casts long shadows over the city of Vijaya's ruins, one can almost hear the echo of prayers, feel the presence of scholars studying under lantern light, and sense the pulse of a people whose Islamic heritage has survived the rise and fall of empires. And yet this architectural legacy is only part of the story. The next chapter will reveal how Champa's maritime prowess and vibrant trade networks helped shape not only its wealth, but also the cultural and intellectual life that ensured the survival of Islam amidst upheaval. The lifeblood of Champa flowed not through rivers or fertile plains alone, but across the vast expanse of the South China Sea. Its ports were gateways to a world of commerce and ideas, linking Southeast Asia to Arabia, India, and the Malay archipelago. Ships laden with exotic spices, precious metals, silks, and ceramics docked alongside Cham vessels, creating a vibrant exchange of goods and knowledge. These maritime trade routes were arteries of civilization, carrying not just commodities, but the stories, philosophies, and faiths of distant lands. Champa's strategic location enabled it to flourish as a hub of maritime commerce. The kingdom controlled access to key shipping lanes, its sailors adept at navigating monsoon winds and treacherous currents. Coastal cities such as Phan Rang, Kautara, and Vijaya thrived as cosmopolitan centers where traders, scholars, and pilgrims converged. Here, the currents of commerce and culture intermingled, creating a society as fluid and dynamic as the waters upon which it depended. Among the visitors were Arab and Malay merchants, whose presence would leave an indelible mark on Cham society. These traders brought more than goods. They brought knowledge of astronomy, navigation, medicine, and the principles of Islam. Their interactions with Cham rulers and local elites facilitated the spread of Islamic culture, as rulers saw both the spiritual and political value in adopting the faith. In bustling marketplaces, Cham merchants learned Arabic numerals and accounting techniques. In mosques and learning centers, Cham scholars studied Quranic texts and the rich intellectual traditions of the Islamic world. Intermarriage, diplomacy, and trade partnerships created enduring bonds between Cham communities and foreign visitors, solidifying Islam's role not just as a religion, but as a framework for social and economic life. The exchange was not one-sided. Cham artisans, mathematicians, and sailors contributed their expertise, blending local traditions with imported ideas. Architectural motifs borrowed from Islamic designs were adapted to local materials and aesthetic sensibilities. Lunar calendars guided agricultural cycles alongside Islamic festivals, and Cham poetry began to reflect themes found in Persian and Arabic literature. This period of cultural osmosis enriched Champa's intellectual and artistic landscape. The kingdom became a place where worlds collided. Hindu temple art coexisted with mosque inscriptions. Traditional Cham melodies harmonized with Arabic chants, and local legends absorbed the cadence of stories from across the seas. Such syncretism created a civilization that was resilient, adaptive, and deeply interconnected with the wider currents of human history. Yet even as trade and culture flourished, the kingdom faced mounting pressures, neighboring powers, internal strife, and the inevitable tides of history that would challenge Champa's very existence. By the 15th century, the once mighty kingdom of Champa faced relentless challenges. In 1471, Dai Viet forces launched a devastating campaign that razed Vijaya, the capital, and decimated Cham leadership. Coastal cities that had thrived as trade hubs fell silent, and the kingdom's territorial integrity unraveled. Internal rivalries and fragmented rule left Champa vulnerable, signaling the end of an era. The fall was not a single event, but a gradual erosion. Repeated invasions, dynastic disputes, and pressure from neighboring states steadily diminished Champa's political power. Its naval strength, which had once commanded the South China Sea, was no longer sufficient to defend its people or preserve its culture. Yet even in defeat, the spirit of Champa endured, alive in its people, its language, and the faith that had taken root along its shores. As the kingdom fell, waves of Cham refugees sought sanctuary across the region. Many fled to Cambodia, settling along the Mekong River and in other rural enclaves. Others crossed the seas to southern Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. These migrations carried Champa's cultural DNA, the language, traditions, and most importantly, its Islamic faith, into new lands. In exile, the Cham preserved a fragile but resilient identity. Communities maintained their religious practices, celebrated festivals, and passed down stories of a kingdom that once spanned the seas. Their diaspora became living archives, ensuring that the Cham heritage did not vanish even as the political entity of Champa ceased to exist. Despite centuries of upheaval, the Islamic heritage of Champa survived. Mosques were rebuilt or maintained, religious schools continued to educate young generations, and sacred texts were carefully preserved. The Cham communities in Cambodia became custodians of this legacy, blending Islamic rituals with local traditions, creating a unique expression of faith that reflected both adaptation and continuity. The survival of Champa's Islamic heritage is a testament to the resilience of culture and belief. It demonstrates how a civilization, though politically extinguished, can endure through its people and their devotion. Today, as Cham communities perform prayers, recite the Quran, and celebrate Islamic festivals, they echo the heartbeat of a lost kingdom, a reminder that history's influence is never truly erased, only transformed and carried forward. Even in ruins, even in exile, the story of Champa whispers through time, hinting at mysteries yet to be uncovered and setting the stage for the next chapter. The tangible archaeological and textual evidence that reveals just how deep and far-reaching the kingdom's Islamic heritage truly was. The silent stones of Champa whisper stories that words alone cannot convey. Scattered across ancient ruins, inscriptions etched in Sanskrit, Cham, and Arabic provide a roadmap of a civilization that bridged worlds. Among these, Arabic calligraphy stands out, adorning tombs and early mosques, signaling the depth of Islamic influence long before modern scholars took notice. Manuscripts, preserved in the careful hands of Cham scholars, reveal not only religious teachings but also insights into law, astronomy, and trade practices. These texts document the journeys of Cham pilgrims to Mecca, the establishment of religious schools, and the guidance of Islamic scholars who helped shape the kingdom's intellectual landscape. Each page is a fragment of memory, a testament to a civilization that valued learning as much as faith. Excavations across former Cham territories have unearthed material evidence of Islamic life. The foundations of mosques, remnants of religious schools, and intricately carved tombs illustrate a society that harmonized faith with architecture. Artifacts such as coins bearing Arabic inscriptions, ceramics imported from the Middle East, and navigational instruments testify to a civilization deeply connected to the wider Islamic world. Even in Cambodia, where many Cham refugees settled, archaeologists have identified remnants of mosques and cemeteries dating back centuries. These discoveries reinforce the narrative of continuity, showing how Islamic traditions persisted even beyond Champa's political demise. Each find is a portal into the past, revealing a culture that thrived at the intersection of trade, faith, and artistry. Piecing together these inscriptions, manuscripts, and artifacts paints a portrait of a civilization both complex and adaptive. The evidence confirms that Islam in Champa was not superficial. It permeated social structures, education, and urban planning. Scholars interpreting these sources note the syncretic nature of Cham Islam, blending local customs with imported traditions to create a unique religious and cultural identity. Yet many mysteries remain. Why did Champa embrace Islam so fluidly? How did its people integrate foreign beliefs without losing their indigenous heritage? Each artifact invites further inquiry, challenging historians to reconsider not only the story of Champa, but also the broader dynamics of cultural exchange in Southeast Asia. The physical and textual evidence of Champa's Islamic heritage stands as a bridge across time, connecting modern observers to a world that was both distant and intimately familiar, a world where faith and culture intertwine to leave an enduring legacy. Today, the Cham people of Cambodia carry the heartbeat of a lost kingdom. Settled along river valleys and in rural communities, They preserve the language, rituals, and stories of their ancestors. Mosques continue to be focal points for worship and social life, with elders passing down religious knowledge to younger generations. Through festivals, weddings, and daily prayers, Cham communities maintain a tangible link to their Cham and Islamic roots, embodying the resilience of a culture that once spanned the coasts of Vietnam and Cambodia. The survival of Cham Islamic traditions is remarkable, given centuries of upheaval. Even under political pressures, displacement, and the threat of assimilation, the Cham have preserved their distinct identity. Children learn Arabic for religious purposes, imams lead the faithful in prayer, and traditional ceremonies reflect a synthesis of Cham customs and Islamic rituals. Handcrafted artifacts, calligraphy, and architectural styles continue to carry forward centuries-old aesthetic and spiritual sensibilities. Preservation is not only about survival, it is about continuity and adaptation. Cham communities have modified rituals to fit new contexts, blending old practices with contemporary realities, while remaining faithful to the essence of their heritage. Each prayer, each celebration, is a living echo of a civilization that refused to disappear entirely. The influence of Champa's Islamic heritage extends beyond its immediate communities. Across Southeast Asia, Cham networks connect Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia, facilitating cultural exchange and reinforcing a sense of shared identity. Cham artisans, traders, and scholars contribute to regional economies and cultural life, serving as bridges between the past and present. Moreover, the Cham example challenges modern societies to recognize the value of preserving minority cultures. Their story underscores the importance of religious tolerance, cultural hybridity, and the enduring power of human resilience. In a region marked by the rise and fall of empires, the Cham stand as witnesses to history, reminding us that even when kingdoms fall, ideas, faith, and culture can endure, shaping societies for centuries to come. As we trace the threads of Champa's Islamic heritage, we are reminded that history is not only about conquest and collapse. It is about continuity, adaptation, and the indelible marks that civilizations leave behind. The Cham people, with their faith, art, and traditions, carry forward the legacy of a kingdom lost to time, yet very much alive in the hearts of those who remember and honor it. As we stand on the banks of the Mekong, gazing at the modest mosques of the Cham communities or the weathered ruins of Vijaya, we are reminded that history is never truly gone. It lingers in stone, in story, in the rhythm of daily life. Champa, a kingdom that once commanded the coasts of Southeast Asia, may have vanished as a political entity, but its influence endures, woven into the spiritual, cultural, and intellectual fabric of the region. The Cham people, carrying their Islamic faith and ancestral traditions, embody the resilience of a civilization that survived conquest, displacement, and centuries of uncertainty. Their mosques, manuscripts, and ceremonies are living archives, echoing centuries of adaptation, devotion, and cultural synthesis. Through them, we glimpse a kingdom that was at once Hindu, Buddhist, and Islamic, a testament to the power of human societies to absorb, transform, and preserve knowledge across time and space. Champa's story offers lessons that transcend geography and era. It reminds us that empires may rise and fall, yet culture, faith, and identity can endure in the hearts of a people. It illustrates the importance of openness, how trade, exchange, and dialogue can enrich a civilization, fostering innovation, art, and learning. And it challenges contemporary society to recognize the value of preserving minority cultures, appreciating that diversity is not merely a relic of the past, but a foundation for the future. Ultimately, the legacy of Champa is a call to reflection, to honor the past, to acknowledge the ingenuity and resilience of human societies, and to listen to the whispers of civilizations that history almost forgot. For in the stories of the Cham, in the arches of ancient mosques and the inscriptions on time-worn tombs, we find more than relics of a lost kingdom. We discover enduring symbols of faith, identity, and the unyielding human spirit. Champa may have fallen overnight, but its echoes have traveled centuries, reminding us that the soul of a civilization cannot be destroyed, only transformed, and that the mysteries of the past continue to shape the world we inhabit today.